At our Pur-Logic offices, our staff is here, and we're doing this presentation live. At Pur-Logic Solutions, we're all about making our clients successful. I hope today we can talk to you about Sage Intacct. I have few slides to go through, and then we'll go into a live demo of Intacct. So quick introductions. This is our agenda for today. We'll get started with a few housekeeping items. Type any questions you have in the chat box. Angela is monitoring, and we will get to every question that is shown or put in here. And you can do it during the course of the webinar, but we'll probably get to all the questions at the end. We'll make sure to follow up afterwards if there's something to be provided to you. We will also be sending you a copy of the presentation and the recording of the webinar in a follow-up email after this event. So today, joining us is Hitesh Dani from Sage Intacct Canada, who will be demoing the solution. I am Mo, and on the webinar today, we have Faye Salmonson, who is the Managing Director here at Pur-Logic Solutions, and Angela, as I mentioned, will be keeping track of the Q&A. I have a few slides. I'm not going to bore you with too many slides, but we'll continue with what Sage Intacct provides from the form of digital transformation. There's a lot of talk about digital transformation that's going around, and in the last 10 years, the digital transformation movement has been very active, and Sage Intacct is in the leadership of digital transformation. So what does digital transformation mean? It provides the leadership capability, the ability to envision and drive the organizational change in a systematic and profitable way. The capabilities, this is where Sage Intacct comes in, but empowers organization to not only enhance existing processes and products, but actually improve and create new business models for companies. And companies that effectively harness and unite these two capabilities become digital masters of it. Here's what on the next slide you will see what George Westerman from MIT Sloan talks about. It's really in seeking to become a digital master, and today's business leaders should prioritize employee experience, customer experience, and operational experience as part of the digital transformation. So Sage Intacct is a cloud ERP solution. And the benefits of the cloud, if you didn't know that, it's pretty much displayed and showing that it's always up. It has a built-in disaster assistance. We don't call it disaster recovery because disaster recovery is very much a capability of you to relocate your offices and to do it. But since the application is in the cloud, you can access it from anywhere. There is no IT maintenance, and if there are some IT folks on this webinar, we don't mean to say that there will be no requirement for IT or internal IT is your internal IT. However, your ERP application, your accounting system is not going to require IT maintenance to a certain extent if it was on premise. Your data is always stored off-site. You can work from anywhere, from a coffee shop, from home, and we've all learned over the last 2 years that we need to work not from where our offices are. It's easily upgradable, and we'll cover that, the upgrade in the form of releases that Sage Intacct does, and it, end of the day, becomes a lower cost of ownership, which is the largest benefit of being on the cloud. Sage Intacct, when you look at this ecosystem slide, you will notice that all the green boxes are the accounting functionality, which is Sage Intacct provides that. That means it's from one vendor. You don't need to add anything else. It provides the basic accounting. All the green boxes work together. They are part of the solution. It is Sage Intacct's core functionality in those green boxes that you see. The blue boxes are marketplace integration by industry. So where you see marketing automation, CRM, the treasury functions, the tax management, the e-commerce and website and point of sales are on the marketplace, and they can integrate very easily into Sage Intacct. Here's where we want to spend a little bit of time talking about industry focus, because not everybody is in the same industry. So we're starting from the left side of the screen and going all the way to the right. So, you know, before we come to you specifically, we want to talk about this for smaller and medium customers. You know, the product line here from an industry or service-centric industries, you can see the dark green ones. So if you're in a SaaS software, nonprofit, professional services, healthcare, and financial services, this is where it's very, very, very strong. Then we move to the lighter green, which is 2 add-on modules on the Sage Intacct, which really complements what Sage Intacct provides, and that is construction and real estate and wholesale distribution. Wholesale distribution is really reliant on inventory, pick, pack, and ship, taking orders and shipping them. Now, when we get into complex distributions where you have really different products that you would be assembling and putting together in a high-tech industry, this is where Sage 300 or X3, the other Sage products, would work, especially in the process manufacturing and discrete manufacturing. So that is not really the true strength of Sage Intacct, but as you can see, when we show in the medium segment, that's where Sage 300 and X3 can really shine. But the important part is it based on your requirements. So if your requirements do meet the Sage Intacct, then it is a fabulous solution, and we can always have one-on-one conversation and take your requirements and go from there. This is a bit of the architect of the Sage Intacct. As you can see, our foundation layer includes things like, you know, infrastructure or service as a software as a service, and platform as a service too. So you hear a lot about PaaS and SaaS. This is where Sage Intacct really shines. You will see above that the general ledger, cash management, AR, AP. These are the bread and butter parts of it and considered a core accounting layer in Sage Intacct. The additional modules that you see on top complement the base core modules, and these are, for example, budgeting, forecasting, Salesforce integration, warehouse management, purchasing and vendor management, add more or complement more of what Sage Intacct is capable to do out of the box. Why Sage Intacct? Well, Sage Intacct has been the preferred provider for the AICPA, which is the American Institute of CPAs. It has been the #1 customer satisfaction in G2, and Gartner considers it to be in one of those leading cloud softwares for Sage 300. So from a support perspective, it earns the #1 customer satisfaction, and it's an industry leader and visionary in a cloud financial management. This, if you Google Sage Intacct, you will see all these accolades provided there. It provides unlimited computing power. It has the power of API. It comes with buy with confidence guarantee. It has all these integration in the market to provide that works out of the box with Sage Intacct. So just want to summarize before we go with doing the demo is is to show you the key benefits of it. First of all, it's built in the cloud, native cloud from the first line of code. It has deep multidimensional and accounting automation built into it, sophisticated visibility for real-time decision making. It's considered the best of breed. It, as I said, has easy integration to other solutions. As you're going to see from the demo, it's really what we call fresh and modern user interface. It is designed for CFOs and professional finance people in the accounting department. And as you see what's in the cloud, what we show as core financials, industry-specific solutions, and then the additional modules. At this point, I am going to make Hitesh the presenter. And let me see here. Panelist. Hitesh, I'm making you the presenter and muting myself.
Mo, thank you very much. Let me see if I can share my screen. And a quick check, can you hear me okay? And can you see the screen okay with Sage Intacct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you in partnership with Mo, Faye, Angela, and the Pur-Logic team. Mo spoke about being a leader when it comes to digital transformation and focusing on customer experience, employee experience, and operational excellence. In this particular overview session, I will strive to showcase how Sage Intacct provides the employee experience and the operational excellence, resulting into customer satisfaction and customer experience for you. Let's get started. As you look at my screen, you notice that this is a pure browser-based application. So in this particular case, I am using Google Chrome, and at some point through our session, you will see me switching to Microsoft Edge. But because this is a browser-based application, we support any major browser, any device, and as long as you have internet connectivity, you have access to Sage X3. As you look at the top section, you see that we are operating at top level. Sage Intacct is architected in such a way that you can work from the same login, same browser into multiple applications. We call this multi-entity shared entity architecture, where you have the ability to create your master records, such as your chart of accounts, your vendors, customers, employees, and bank accounts, either at the top level, or you can create them at each individual entity level. Really, it's how you wish to create it, but you have the ability to report all of your entities at the top, as you will see through this session. And you also have the ability to slide into each of your entities and be able to work into different entities from the same browser, same login, without having to go out and go back in. The ability to have this multi-entity shared environment gives you complete flexibility to report into each of your entities as well as all of your entities without having to do any extra work. As we continue, you will see that I've logged in as Emma, who is the controller. For Emma, she has the ability to set her own preferences as a user, or you can set the preferences from an administrative perspective. For the purposes of this demonstration, we have made sure that Emma has complete permission to do everything within the system so that I don't have to log out and log back in. As we go through the demonstration, you will see that Sage Intacct is a completely auditable system. We give you complete control with role-based permission so that you can have segregation of duties. But for the demonstration purposes, we will use Emma to do just about every function. The next thing you see is this little bubble, which gives you the ability to use Intacct Collaborate. Intacct Collaborate is really a Salesforce chatter feature that gives you the ability throughout your organization to collaborate. It has two purposes. It gives you the ability to collaborate quickly. So in this case, one of my colleagues, Nikki, has sent me a purchase requisition asking me to actually approve the purchase requisition. I can click on this link and it launches me straight into the purchase requisition without me having to go through and search for that particular request. The other thing that you see happen is because this particular conversation is tied with the transaction, when you are getting audited or if you are looking at some context for this particular transaction, you have everything to do with that transaction going with the transaction. So you collaborate and you transact at the same time. A big part of any ERP implementation is the adaptability for your user. If users don't adopt the system, it really runs into a challenge. And above and beyond the flexibility and the user interface that we have in Sage Intacct, we also have a very comprehensive help feature. So you can look for help on this page. You can go to Learning Center, which Mo will cover as I finish the demonstration, or you can go to our Help Center. Now, when you go to the Help Center, you have the ability to go and look for a specific help topic by module or by a specific topic. You also have the ability to look at the video libraries, so you can actually go through and start going through a video capture of how you can complete a specific transaction or a specific function. As we continue, you have the ability to save your menu items as favorite, so you don't have to go through menus. The help page gives you complete transparency in terms of our feature releases. So we release 4 features in every year. Here is the release cadence for our features. For every release, you will be able to look at a release notes section or a page where you have a video coming in, sharing with you exactly what has been done in that particular release with very detailed release notes and online help. You also have access to a very robust community of customers and partners that, again, Mo will take you through. So as we complete my demonstration, Mo is going to take you through the community feature, the support feature, as well as the training component of Sage Intacct. All of our modules show up on the applications bar as application. And you have the ability to look at each of your modules that you have subscribed to. Now, the important part from a user interface perspective is when you go and when you look at a specific module, you have 2 choices. You can either look at the visual process map for that particular module, and you will notice that our modules sort of go into 3 swim lanes. You have setup, you have data, and you have preference and or reports. If I move away from company to purchasing, same thing, you have data, you have tasks, and you have reports. 3 swim lanes. If I move away from that particular option of looking at the visual process map, I now have the ability to look at how I work with my menu options. And you will notice they also come into the same 3 lanes. Here is your data, the detailed transaction that you might want to process. Here are your tasks, and here are your reports. Now, when you look at your transactions, you have the ability to define each of your transactions. You define the screen and you define the workflow. So you may define that we want to start with a purchase requisition, or you may define that we don't really need purchase requisition. We need purchase orders. For purchase orders, you can define whether it's a regular purchase order, whether it's an inventory-based purchase order where you actually receive inventory through fulfillment. If it's a purchase order with a spend, so not only are you tracking the budget, but you are looking at a spend and saying if we exceed this particular budget, it needs to be approved or someone needs to be notified, or you can create a blank PO. And you will notice that as you go through your transaction, you will be able to take a quote and convert it into a PO without having to re-enter it, and you can take it all the way through to accounts payable bills. Similarly, for each of your modules or applications, you have a list of standard reports that come in. You have the ability to take our standard reports and use them, or you have the ability to create your own custom reports. And that takes me to our report section. So when you go and when you look at a report section, we have something called a report center, and our report center gives you 140 plus reports that come by default out of the box. You can go and filter them based on the application, or you can go and filter them based on the report type or the report audience that you define yourself. You can also do a search, a wildcard search for a report name, report type, or report audience. Each of our report or each of our list can be exported into HTML, PDF, CSV, or Excel. The data integration points are very, very easy with Sage Intacct. Memorized reports are reports where you have provided information in terms of parameters, specific date, specific business unit, and without having to really provide that information again, you simply click run. Once you have a report memorized, you can schedule it. You can schedule it so that the distribution can happen to you or somebody else. My reports are reports that you have saved. You can actually run my reports. So if you have multiple divisions or departments, you can run my reports on a schedule basis so that every department ends up getting their filtered report automatically at a specified time. I'm going to look at our company section for a minute and take you to managing users. So we are transferring away from the look and feel to security component of Sage Intacct. When I look at Sage Intacct from a security perspective, I'm going to focus on users. So users are people who access your application. And in this case, we are going to look at Nikki as a user. Nikki belongs to a role called employee user. It's a role-based system. You can assign Nikki to multiple roles. So I can assign Nikki to the role of an employee and an AP or accounts payable. And I can limit the work that she can do so that I have segregation of duties within my system. You can also limit your users to a specific entity. Emma can access all entities, whereas Nikki can only access entity 100, USA 1. You can limit your users to department, and you can limit your users to territories if you so choose to implement territories. Moving away from users, if I go to my company and if I go to the administration tab, I have the ability to look at my roles. When we go to roles and when we look at the role employee user, if I am an administrator, I can try out this role to see exactly what permissions or restrictions this particular role has, or I can look at subscription. Looking at subscription, you notice that Nikki has access to only certain modules or certain applications. And if I look at purchasing and look at permissions, notice that Nikki has very limited access. How does that translate into Nikki's access of the system? We are going to cancel out of here We are going to change our tab to Microsoft Edge. So I'm going to change away from Google Chrome to Microsoft Edge, where I have logged in as Nikki. Notice that when we go to purchasing visual process map, it shows up, but Nikki is not able to click on certain icons. They are grayed out. Obviously, Nikki can click and create a purchase requisition. So if I go to menu options, you will see that the menu options for Nikki has changed significantly from Emma, where you have a lot of restrictions. There are only certain things Nikki can do, and the menu options only show up if you give Nikki the permission. So you can lock a user down all the way from this is what the user can see, this is what the user can do, or user can only list, user can edit, however you wish to control security of your organization. And when Mo and the Pur-Logic team work with you, they are going to use some preset quick start templates to make sure that we have some default permissions, reports, and processes defined so that the implementation goes very easy and smooth and comes in with some sort of a recommended prescriptive guidance. If Nikki goes and looks at her purchase requisition, you will notice that she can only edit one purchase requisition, and that is because that purchase requisition has been declined. Any purchase requisition that has been submitted, Nikki cannot edit, she can only view until Emma, who is the approver, will reject or approve that particular submission. So not only do you have segregation of duty, you also have approval workflows built into the system throughout your workflow. I'm going to move back to being Emma, and I'm going to go back to dashboards. Sage Intacct comes with many dashboards that are built into the application, and those dashboards can be general or they can be role-based dashboards. So each of your users can actually move into their own dashboard and do what is it that they wish to do on a daily basis. I'm Emma. I'm typically going to launch what I want to do with my dashboard. This is the view Emma will have. Again, depending upon the permissions that you give to a user, the user can have multiple dashboards showing up. So I can switch from being a controller to AR, CFO, whatever the case may be. Let's take a look at the dashboard. We are moving away from the user interface of the application to security, to visibility and insights, all the way through to auditability of the system and be able to provide you with source documents, regardless of where you are looking at. Because this is a demo instance, we have transactions going back to end of December 2019 from a meaningful fashion. Now, you will notice that we have different locations coming up. And before we look at the location, I'd like to point out something that is very unique and very important into Sage Intacct. If I go to my reports and if I go to setup, you notice we have accounts and we have something called dimensions. In traditional ERP system, you have a segmented chart of accounts. So you have something like my natural account, company, location, department, and so on. And as you keep adding a segment to your chart of account, your segmented chart of account keeps getting longer and longer, and at some point it becomes very unmanageable. In contrast, in Sage Intacct, we modernize your chart of account. So all you really have is your natural account. Yeah, now your natural account can be an account and a sub account. It can be up to 24 digits long, but we are using only 5 in this case. So this is your natural account. There is no segment associated with this particular account. What changes is what we call dimensions. So every single attribute or field or context that you want to put into your transaction now becomes part of what we call dimensions. Some of these dimensions come as part of your core applications. So we provide 10 dimensions as part of your core applications. And as you add more subscriptions, you keep getting more dimensions. So if you are using projects, you get projects and tasks. If these dimensions aren't enough, you have the ability to create your own user-defined dimensions and use them throughout your organization. Now, all of these dimensions, whether it's a business line, customer, department, employee, item, location, go through your financial transaction. So every time you transact, you take this information and you transact with this information. So it goes through your transaction all the way through to summarization and analytics of your chart of accounts and your books. In addition, we also have statistical accounts. Statistical accounts will be things like your employee headcounts. So not only do you have ability to slice and dice into your financial data, you also have the ability to combine your financial data with your operational data and slice and dice them together. So you can actually go and say, what is my revenue per employee? Combination of your dimensions and your statistical accounts will give you that information. So having gone through that particular exercise, let's go back and look at the controller dashboard again. Now, we are looking at a date which is December 31st, 2019. What happens if I change it to end of February 2022? The minute I change my date, you will see my entire dashboard change. You will see that the dashboard is basically filtered based on the date that we have put together. If I change it back to 12/31st, 2019, you will see the dashboard change. I am working off of top level, which means I am only going to include locations that I have selected from here. So not only are you filtering based on date, you are also filtering based on a location or an entity. If you wish to change how that particular view appears, you go, you look at your filters and say, we don't want to filter based on, in addition to filtering based on location, we also want to filter based on department or based on a customer. I'm going to select customer and click OK. Now you see your dashboard change. So you're no longer filtering based on dates only, but dates, locations, and a specific customer. Notice I'd already selected this specific customer before, and therefore you see the dashboard change, and everything you are doing here is very specific to this particular customer. What is my AP for this customer? What is my AR for this customer? And what are my transactions that impact only this customer? So you have ability to drill down not only from your account perspective or your balance sheet or profit and loss perspective, but also specific location, specific customer or employee or vendor. I'm going to change my filtering back to location only, and you will see my dashboard change. Now, if I were to go and change my location to 100, which is USA entity, everything changes again. But I'm operating at the top level. So operating at the top level, I have the ability to look at each of my entity, whatever that is. But what if I were to go and I only had access to entity 100, which is US, or entity 400, which is Canada? Here is what the dashboard would look like. Same dashboard, it gets filtered based on the selection that you do, complete filtering and drill down capability. I'm now going to go back to my top level change to 2/22/2019. So the transactions that you see leading up to end of February, I have not closed my books. In Sage Intacct, we have what we call a virtual close. Every time you take a transaction and you process it, it shows up on your dashboard real time. Now, on your dashboard, you have something called performance card. Each of your performance card define your KPI or your key performance indicator. You define what they are. They filter based on the selection that you have at the top of your dashboard, and you have the ability to either change or add new KPIs as you wish. Everything you do in Sage Intacct is point and click. And that's why Mo mentioned that you don't really need support from your IT department. Although if you have an IT department, it's always useful because they'll be able to do so much more in conjunction with the Pur-Logic team and your business leadership team. If I look at AP, something may not seem right. I want to look into my accounts payable. I click, I'm now drilling down into AP. Because I'm drilling down into AP, I would like to change this particular 2/22/2019 accounts payable. Sorry, I need to drill down into AR. Accounts payable 220. Let me just apply 2/22/2019 USA 1 accounts payable. And what you will notice is you have the ability to drill into your different journals. So we have the ability to create different journals so that you can group your transactions together. And here, you know, it's an accounts payable journal, cash disbursement journal, or my journal entries. If you wish to go further, you can drill down again based on the date. And I am now drilling into my accounts payable journal, going straight into the source. From here, if I wish to click further, I can click on my debit. And from there, I am drilling right into the invoice. So from my dashboard, I have looked at my transactions into accounts payable journal. Within APJ, I have looked into a specific date, and I have gone straight into the source of my transaction, going all the way to the accounts payable bill that was entered. When I look at this particular account payable bill, and edit my bill, I go to my line, show details, and the minute you go into the line details, now you start to see your dimensions coming through. So if I had entered a business line, if I had entered a customer that was associated with this transaction, all your dimensions are now flowing through your transaction as you continue on. information, bill date, due date, bill total, amounts paid, and which check you used to pay this particular bill. If you wish, you can actually look at the printout of the check itself. Being able to drill down from your dashboard all the way through to source of the transaction. If you wanted any specific reference, you could actually say at Nikki, let's make sure we fix this. In this particular communication chatter, you can add links, you can add files, and the minute I click share, it goes to Nikki, it becomes part of this transaction, it lights up. So if you are ever looking at something that happened and you want it to have context, you can have the context here. You can also attach multiple documents to a specific transaction, whether it's a journal entry, an accounts payable bill, whatever transaction you're doing, you can attach multiple attachments to a specific transaction. And I'm going to click post or save. Now, if I go back into it again, and if I view this particular transaction, you have posting details. So the information that I just posted came through. You have history of the transaction that has also come through. In addition, you have the ability to go and look at the audit trail for this particular transaction. So anything to do with auditability in the system, you have full control for the auditability, visibility, and transparency into everything that you are doing in the system. Now, when we go back to our performance card, you will notice that performance cards give you different choices. So I can look at this month, or I can look at this year to date. I can also look at quarter to date, month to date, flexibility all the way through. You have a chart. You can drill down into charts. You have financial reports. Every place you see a link, you can drill down. So you have complete visibility from your profit and loss statement or expense summary statement to look into the source of the transaction. If you have something that is abnormal, whether it's on your financial statement or on your performance card, you have visual indicators, you can drill down, you can start looking at what may not be looking correct. You have ability to compare your budgets against your transaction, and optionally you have the ability to look at your spend management and stop a spend from happening proactively. You also have the ability to look at your approval journals. You can have approval journals, you can have purchasing transactions that need to be approved, or you can have sales transactions that need to be approved. But here, anything to do with approval, you can bring it up, whether it's a timesheet transaction or a bill. Now, one important thing about digital transformation is the ability to look at artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Industry 4.0. So we have approval journal entry showing up. If I click on my search button, this is the list of the journal entries that need to be approved. Notice that each of these journal entries are highlighted with some sort of an exclamation mark. So let me take a view of this entry. As I go into the view, system tells me that we have an outlier here, and there are two outliers. What are they? As I hover over the outlier, system tells me that the combination of this account, department, and amount is unusual. It's not adding up. I now have the ability to look at more detail in terms of what's happening. And the minute I look at the amount, I realized someone must have made a mistake. Instead of 55,000, the salaries and wages have now become 550, so I can decline. I can put a comment and say, sorry, declining this, please take a look. Same approval process or workflow can be applied to every single thing that you wish to do in the system. I'm going to transition away very quickly from your dashboards, your transactions into accounts payable. So if I go into accounts payable, and if I go into purchasing, and if I look at view transactions, all of my transactions show up here. These are the purchase requisitions. Because we have created a workflow where purchase requisitions get converted, I have an option. If I simply say create a PO, I'm now converting a purchase requisition into PO. All of the information from the requisition comes in. If I wish, I can have an attachment. I click submit. I'm running into an issue with my spend management because I've enabled it. But if I were to click submit, this particular purchase requisition will become a purchase order. The screen will go to a purchase order. Purchase order will take me, I can convert it to an accounts payable bill and so on. I don't have to type the information over and over again. You may be a business that has a single entity. You may be a business with multiple entities, or you may be a business with multiple entities and a holding company. So if you were a business with multiple entities, this is what your entities would look like. And if that's what your entities would look like, you would want to see how you are going to process your intercompany transactions. What happens when you do intercompany transactions? So Sage Intacct gives you the ability to have auto management of your inter-entity transactions. And here you can define a due to and due from. So entity USA 1, when dealing with holding company, here are the accounts due to and due from. Entity 200, when dealing with holding company, here are the accounts due to and due from. What happens is when we create an intercompany bill, so here you have an intercompany bill where you are actually paying for company USA 1 and USA 2, and this bill is paid by entity 300. So entity 300 has paid the bill, and you have actually paid for entity 100 and entity 200. When you do that, what happens behind the scenes is Sage Intacct goes through and creates, sorry, I made a mistake. I need to go through. Sage Intacct creates an intercompany journal transaction. So here is what you did when you paid that invoice. $2,700 credited to company 300 and debited respectively to entities 100 and 200. Behind the scene, Sage Intacct automatically creates an inter-entity transaction in terms of what is due from each company to each other. And if you want to do a quick review, there is a dashboard that provides you an inter-entity reconciliation. So here are all my bills that are inter-entity bills. Here is the inter-entity revenue. And as I go through, here are my inter-entity due to and due from. They will always balance out to zero because Sage Intacct keeps track of what you are doing behind the scenes from an inter-entity perspective. final component that I'd like to show you in this overview today is multi-company, multi-currency consolidation. You have the ability to create an invoice going to my accounts payable bills, and I'm going to change my view to all. I'm going to go looking for a vendor advisor printing. As I look at this particular invoice, you will notice that Advisor Printing is a Canadian company. I am purchasing something in the USA from a Canadian supplier. Sage Intacct has the ability to provide daily exchange rates. So this is the default exchange rate that came in. I can override it if I so choose. And so my base amount in US is 78.72, but my transaction amount from a Canadian perspective is $100. And you see that. If I were to go and if I were to create a global consolidation where I want to translate all of the currencies to a base currency, Sage Intacct also gives you the ability to have global consolidation. If I go into global consolidation, you have the ability to create multiple books. Each book can have multiple entities. Once you have created your books and defined your base entity, so in this case, we have a global entity that is in USD. We have non-US locations that is in Great British Pounds, and we have North American locations, which is obviously in USD. When you go through and you run consolidation, Sage Intacct takes care of auto eliminations. Sage Intacct takes care of your currency translation, and it simply gives you a view. So we go to Pur-Logic, which is my entity that holds everything together. You have created some KPIs, and they show up in the Pur-Logic currency, which is USD. You go to the Australian company, your KPIs show up in Australian, and so on. But more importantly, if we go and run our consolidated financial statements, this is how they show up in USD. Everything is translated in USD. Your auto eliminations for inter-entity transactions are automatically taken care of. And this is your global consolidation view. Obviously, you can drill in here as well. Coming back to where we started, going back to the controller dashboard, what we have seen in this overview demo is the ability for Sage Intacct to give you complete visibility from your dashboards through to the source entry, being able to have multi-currency transactions, multi-entity transactions, local or global consolidations, complete auditability of your system, approvals of your workflow, lending itself into employee experience, operational excellence, auditable financials, resulting into an outstanding customer experience. With this, my portion of the demonstration has come to an end. Thank you for your time. I'd like to pass it back to Mo for next steps. Mo, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and make you a presenter.
Thank you. I'm going to show my screen. Hopefully it shows the right screen. Is it showing the Sage Intacct community page?
Yes,
It
Mo.
is, yes.
Okay. So Hitesh, that was an amazing demo. Of course, as you can imagine, within 30 to 35 minutes, this is sort of a view of a master, knowing where to go and how to do it. But if you wanted to see something specific, we'll be more than happy to customize the demo, whether you want to see the inventory section in details, GL, projects, et cetera, et cetera. However, what I wanted to talk to you before we review the questions is this whole community that Sage provides to every customer, partner, and an employee within Sage Intacct. Is this collaboration tool. It provides you with a space to talk with other Intacct users, because sometimes we all run into problems and wonder we're the only ones who are being affected with this, and it's not true. So as you can see, you can connect with other users, consultants, and Sage Intacct experts who can answer your questions. And from here, you can also view a library of videos and jump into the actual learning side of Sage Intacct. Sage Intacct is very big at helping users help themselves. So you can sign up to any course you want and you can take it at your own pace. Learning usually section you will see, as you can see under the resource on the right hand side on the bottom, it's when you log into your Sage Intacct instance, you'll see training, learning center, Intacct help, and community. And also if you need any resources, for example, as it's showing for checks and supplies, because Intacct will also provide you with checks which are specifically designed to work with Sage Intacct, so you would just have to be able to do it from day one. So it is a great community section and learning and training that you can rely on once you're on board with Sage Intacct. Angela, is there any questions that we can answer at this time?
Yes, Mo, just a quick note. I'm just going to say before we get to the questions that I'm going to be sending up a follow-up email later today with more information for all the attendees about the recording of the webinar as well as the gift card. So I will be sending that out later today. And we do have one question. If I'm already on a Sage product, is it easy to move to Intacct?
Absolutely. People have migrated from other Sage products such as Sage 300, Sage 50, Sage Business Vision. Some of them are legacy, some of them are concurrent. People outgrow them, and other application non-Sage, which are such as QuickBooks and NetSuite. And traditionally, it's built into Sage Intacct to bring that information through templates, and you can use that template. Almost everybody that takes on Sage Intacct or subscribes to it comes from some sort of an accounting system. And definitely we have a migration plan and we can help you do that. Matter of fact, we have helped people move from QuickBooks and Sage 300 and Business Vision to Sage Intacct. Are there any other questions?
That was it.
Well, if you still have questions and you haven't put them in the chat, please contact us. You can contact Angela when she sends the recording, and I'm sure once you go through the recording, you might see some questions. You can send an email to her. You also can send an email to myself, which is Mo, M-O-E, at Pur-Logic-Solutions.com. I'd like to thank Hitesh for an amazing demo, Angela for coordinating all of this, and we hope to hear from you soon. And I see right now we're hitting on a 59th minute, so we all managed to squeeze this in 1 hour. Thank you very much.